Your cat just walked away from a $30 can of salmon PT. Again, in a few minutes I'm going to give you 5 toppers, most of them probably already sitting in your kitchen, that can turn even a stubborn, bowl walking away cat into an enthusiastic eater. One of them works in minutes, not days. But first, here's something almost nobody realizes about why cats do this. Cats don't taste first. They smell first. Flavor is almost secondary. Which means the battle over the food bowl isn't really a flavor problem, it's an aroma problem. And once you understand that, the whole thing starts to make sense. Here's the biology behind it. Cats are obligate carnivores. Every part of their sensory wiring is built around one job: identifying safe meat, fast, in the wild. A cat that ate something that smelled even slightly wrong risked its life. Off-scent meant spoiled meat. Spoiled meat meant illness. And in the wild, illness often meant death. So refusing food that doesn't smell exactly right isn't your cat being difficult. It's a survival mechanism thousands of years old. To your cat, this isn't stubbornness, it's survival. Now here's where modern cat ownership runs into a problem. Commercial cat food, even genuinely good, high-quality food, is processed, cooked and packaged. That changes its scent profile. It becomes flatter, more uniform, less like anything a cat would encounter chasing prey. And a cat's nose is roughly 14 times more sensitive than yours. To that nose, a flat, unfamiliar scent can read as suspicious rather than appetizing. On top of that, there's something called food neophobia, a built-in wariness of new or unfamiliar foods. It's not a personality quirk, it's hardwired feline psychology. This is exactly why a cat can eat the same food happily for months, and then, seemingly overnight, decide it's not touching it anymore. Nothing about the food changed, but something about the scent signal your cat is picking up did. This is also a good moment for an honest caveat. Sudden food refusal isn't always about scent or preference. If your cat stops eating for more than 24 hours, seems lethargic, is losing weight, hiding more than usual, or shows any other signs of illness, that's a reason to call your vet before trying anything else. Cats can develop a serious liver condition from prolonged fasting, so a sudden total refusal to eat is never something to wait out. It's also worth paying attention to whether the refusal is picky eater selective, walking away from one food but happily eating treats, or a different flavour, versus a complete loss of interest in food and water altogether. The first pattern usually points to exactly what we're covering today. The second pattern is the one that warrants a same-day call to your vet. Everything in this video is for the far more common scenario, a healthy cat that's simply being selective. It's also worth understanding what picky actually looks like from your cat's side of things. When a cat sniffs a bowl and walks away, it's not making an aesthetic judgment the way you might turning down a dish at a restaurant. It's running a quick safety check, the same one its ancestors ran on every meal, and if the scent profile doesn't match what its brain expects from safe food, the answer defaults to no. That default exists for a reason. Cats that ignored the warning didn't survive long enough to pass on that trait. The ones sitting on your couch right now come from a long line of cats that trusted their nose. So when your cat turns away from a bowl, it's not malfunctioning, it's doing exactly what it evolved to do. With that said, here's the actual fix. All 5 of these toppers work on the same principle. They don't change the food itself. They layer a powerful, prey-like, biologically familiar scent on top of food your cat has already decided to distrust. You're not tricking your cat. You're speaking a language its instincts already understand. Let's start with the one that works for the widest range of cats, often within minutes. Tuna water. Not tuna itself, the liquid from a can of tuna packed in water, not oil. That distinction matters, and we'll come back to why. Some owners report seeing results within minutes of trying this. One common example: adding a spoonful of water-packed tuna water over food a cat had been ignoring, and watching that cat return to the bowl almost immediately. It doesn't work on literally every cat, but it's one of the most reliably effective first tests you can run. Here's why it's so effective. Tuna has one of the most potent, marine, deeply animal scent profiles a cat will encounter in a home setting. It doesn't need to be learned or introduced gradually. Most cats respond to it instantly, including cats who have never been fed fish before. To use it, 1 to 2 teaspoons drizzled over the surface of whatever food your cat is refusing. Don't stir it in. Keep it on top, where the scent hits first, before your cat even gets close to the bowl. Now here's the part almost everyone gets wrong, so pay attention. Tuna water is meant to be a bridge, not a regular addition to your cat's diet. Too much tuna over time can expose cats to excess mercury, and it can also become habit-forming in a way that makes some cats start rejecting anything that isn't tuna. Use it 2 to 3 times a week at most, specifically while your cat is adjusting to a new food, texture or protein. Once that adjustment happens, you don't need it anymore. And one more note on the oil versus water distinction. Oil-packed tuna carries fat levels that can cause digestive upset in cats, and, over time, contribute to a vitamin E deficiency. Water-packed is the one you want, every time. One more practical detail. Check the label for added salt. Some canned tuna, even the water-packed kind, is packed in brine rather than plain water, and that's worth avoiding for regular use. If you're only using a teaspoon or 2 occasionally, it's not a major concern, but if you can find a low sodium or no salt added option, that's the better default. Leftover tuna water can also be portioned into an ice cube tray and frozen, so you're not opening a fresh can every time you want to use a spoonful. Next, chicken bone broth. This one has exploded in popularity as a cat food topper, and when it's done right, it genuinely works. But here's a mistake nearly every cat owner makes without realizing. Most bone broth sold on supermarket shelves contains onion or garlic. Both belong to the allium family, and both are toxic to cats. They cause oxidative damage to red blood cells, and that damage can accumulate even from small amounts over time. This isn't a minor detail. It's the single most important thing to check before you use bone broth as a topper. So here's the rule. Only use bone broth made specifically for pets, or made at home using nothing but bones, water and thyme. No onion, no garlic, no seasoning of any kind, no exceptions. Done correctly, bone broth is one of the most effective toppers available, because it's warm and richly aromatic in a way that maps almost perfectly onto what a cat's instincts recognise as safe, fresh prey. Warm it slightly before serving, not hot. Just warm enough to release the aroma fully, since heat activates the scent compounds and makes the bowl noticeably more appealing. A tablespoon or 2 poured over the food is usually enough. There's also a practical bonus here that has nothing to do with palatability. Bone broth adds moisture to every meal. Most cats are chronically underhydrated. They evolved in arid environments and simply don't have a strong thirst drive. Extra moisture at mealtime is quietly one of the best long-term things you can do for their kidney health. If you're making it at home, it's genuinely simple. A few chicken or turkey bones, enough water to cover them, and a slow simmer for several hours until the water reduces and takes on a light golden colour. No stock cubes, no bouillon, no salt. Let it cool completely before serving. Strain out any small bone fragments and portion the rest into an ice cube tray for the freezer, so you always have some on hand without having to make a new batch every time. Third, freeze-dried meat crumbles. Almost nobody talks about this one, and it might be the most versatile topper on the entire list. Freeze-dried raw meat chicken, turkey, salmon, beef crumbled over regular food works on a principle called sensory contrast. The crunchy texture sitting on top of wet food creates something genuinely novel and engaging, tapping into the part of a cat's brain that responds to varied prey. Small animals aren't uniform in texture or density. A bowl of PT frankly is. Many owners are convinced their cat simply hates wet food. In reality, more often than not, they just miss the smell and the crunch that dry food happen to provide. That's exactly the gap freeze-dried crumbles fill. The real mechanism here is scent preservation. Freeze-drying keeps scent compounds intact in a way cooking simply doesn't. So freeze-dried meat smells, to a cat's nose, much closer to raw prey than any cooked or processed food ever will. You're placing one of the most biologically compelling scent signals available directly on top of food your cat has been ignoring. To use it, crumble a small amount, about a teaspoon, directly onto the surface. Don't stir it in, let it sit where the nose finds it first. This also happens to be one of the best tools for transitioning a dry food-only cat onto wet food, since the familiar crunch on top makes the unfamiliar texture underneath feel less foreign. When picking one up, look for a single ingredient product, just the named meat, nothing else added, and store it in an airtight container once opened. Since freeze-dried meat pulls moisture back in quickly and can go from crisp to chewy within a day or two if left exposed, a small bag goes a long way, since you're only using a teaspoon at a time. Fourth, raw egg yolk. And I want to be careful with how I frame this one, because it deserves a nuanced answer rather than a flat yes or no. Some owners use fresh egg yolk occasionally as a topper, never the white, which contains a protein called avidin that blocks biotin absorption in cats over time. The yolk itself is rich in fat-soluble vitamins, amino acids, and fatty acids that support coat and skin health. That said, raw eggs can carry bacteria, so it's worth a quick conversation with your veterinarian before making this part of your cat's regular routine, especially if your cat has any existing health conditions. If your vet gives the go-ahead, half a raw egg yolk, used 2 to 3 times a week at most, blended into or placed on top of food, adds a rich, fatty, deeply savoury scent that many cats find very appealing. It also creates a silky coating over dry or crumbly food that can change the mouthfeel enough to make a previously rejected texture suddenly acceptable. If you do use it, stick with fresh eggs from a reliable source, the same standard you'd apply to eggs you'd eat yourself. Some owners choose to lightly cook the yolk instead, just until it firms up slightly, as a way to reduce bacterial risk while keeping most of the aroma and richness that makes it effective as a topper. That's a reasonable middle ground if raw egg makes you uneasy, and it's another good question to run past your vet along with everything else. Fifth, and this is the strangest one on the list, it isn't meat. It isn't fish. And most cat owners have never even considered it. Nutritional yeast. The same deactivated yeast humans sprinkle on popcorn as a dairy-free, cheesy-flavoured seasoning. Many picky cats respond surprisingly well to it, even ones who've ignored the exact same bowl moments earlier. It's not a meat scent or a fish scent, it's something else entirely, and for a lot of cats. That novelty combined with its chemistry seems to work in its favour. The science is fairly simple. Nutritional yeast is rich in B vitamins, particularly B12, and contains glutamic acid, the compound responsible for umami flavour. Cats have taste receptors that respond strongly to amino acids and glutamates, and those signals map closely onto the flavour profile of protein-rich prey. Nutritional yeast essentially echoes those signals without containing any animal product at all. A light dusting, about half a teaspoon over the top of food, is all it takes. It's low-calorie, genuinely nutritious, and unlike tuna water or egg yolk, it's safe for more regular use. It's also the only topper on this list that works equally well across wet food, dry food, and raw diets. Keep a small jar next to the food bowl for a lot of cat owners. This quietly becomes the most used tool in the whole list. It's inexpensive, it keeps well in a sealed container away from moisture, and because it's not a meat or fish product, it doesn't carry the same bridge. Not a staple warning the other toppers you can use a light dusting regularly, without the same concerns around habit-forming behaviour or nutrient excess. Before we wrap up, a few common mistakes worth flagging, because they undo a lot of the effort people put into using these toppers correctly. The first is mixing the topper into the food, instead of placing it on top. Scent needs to hit the nose before the cat commits to eating, so stirring it through dilutes the very signal that's supposed to draw your cat in. The second is trying all 5 toppers at once, hoping one of them will land. If several things change at the same time, and your cat suddenly starts eating, you won't actually know what worked, and you'll have no way to repeat it deliberately next time. The third is giving up after a single refusal. A sniff and a walk away on day one doesn't necessarily mean failure, it can simply mean your cat needs one more exposure before the instinct kicks in. And the fourth is treating these toppers as a permanent fixture rather than a bridge. Tuna water, bone broth and egg yolk in particular are meant to help your cat transition onto better nutrition, a new protein, or higher moisture food, not to become a daily habit in their own right. Before we get to the final steps, it's worth mentioning that scent isn't the only thing influencing whether your cat eats. A few environmental factors can undo even the best topper if they're working against you. Bowl material matters more than people expect. Plastic bowls can hold on to old odours and even leach a faint smell that some cats find off-putting, which is why stainless steel or ceramic tends to work better for sensitive eaters. Bowl placement matters too. A food bowl sitting right next to a busy hallway, a loud appliance, or another pet's bowl can make a cat feel too exposed to relax and eat, regardless of how good the food smells. And if you have multiple cats, competition at a shared feeding station can cause one cat to hang back and appear picky when the real issue is simply feeling crowded out. If you've tried every topper on this list and you're still seeing hesitation, it's worth ruling out these factors before assuming the food itself is the problem. It's also worth remembering that whiskers play a role here too. A bowl that's too narrow or too deep can cause whisker fatigue, where the whiskers repeatedly brush against the sides while eating, which is uncomfortable enough that some cats will simply refuse to finish a meal. Switching to a wide, shallow plate solves this instantly for the cats it affects, and it costs nothing to test. So here's exactly what to do, step by step. Pick one topper and try it tonight, don't try all 5 at once. If your cat has never responded to a topper before, tuna water is the most universally effective first test. Apply it to the surface of the food, not mix through, so the scent signal hits the nose first. Give it 3 days before switching to a different topper, since cats can be slow to change behaviour, and one walk away on day 1 doesn't mean the approach has failed. Once your cat is reliably eating the food with the topper, don't stop there. Over the following week or 2, gradually reduce the amount of topper you're using, a little at a time, until your cat is eating the food on its own. That's the actual goal, not a lifetime of toppers, but a short bridge that gets your cat comfortable with the underlying food. Quick recap before we wrap up, since this is a lot to take in. Tuna water for the fastest scent bridge, used sparingly. Chicken bone broth, onion and garlic free, for warmth, aroma and hydration. Freeze-dried meat crumbles for texture, and a raw prey scent that cooked food can't replicate. Raw or lightly cooked egg yolk, cleared with your vet, for richness and a silky coating. And nutritional yeast, the odd one out, for a savoury umami signal that works across every type of food and every type of cat. Here's what all 5 of these toppers have in common. They don't trick your cat, and they don't mask bad food or override your cat's instincts. They work with those instincts with thousands of years of hardwired biology that says, if it smells like prey, it's safe to eat. Your cat isn't being difficult, they're being a cat. And now you have 5 ways to speak their language at the food bowl. The next time your cat finishes a meal they once refused, you'll know the difference wasn't the food. It was understanding how your cat thinks. Which one of these are you trying first? Drop it in the comments, and if your cat is a legendary picky eater, tell me about them. The pickier, the better. If you made it this far, you understand something most people never will. Cats aren't just pets. They're complex, intelligent animals, with instincts that make a lot more sense once you know what to look for. Subscribe